Good afternoon to all the Millionaire by Morning listeners. We have a guest with us today, a guest that is appropriate for the 2nd of January 2024 to get us started on the new year. She's here to speak to us about leadership, not only leadership, which we all need for our businesses and marketing, and we also need leadership in family. So she's here to tell us a certain story about leadership, family, empowerment, all with her daughter and her child. And the story will come about in an exceptional way. So I want to welcome Delisa Abraham to the Millionaire by Morning show this evening. Hello
Thank you.
there.
Hi, how are you? And everyone that's listening, hello to you as well. I'm so excited to be here, Rashad. Thank you so much for having me on.
Not a problem at all. We're glad to have you. Like I say, leadership is one of the most important things that we have in our lives that will move us forward. But this is a story that's a little bit deeper than that as well. Started with leadership and it turned into a business per se.
Yes.
Am I correct?
Absolutely, absolutely. So I'll give a little bit of background about me so people get a little bit caught up, and then I will get into the real story about how we can get our second act in leadership and in life. And it starts with our family, right? So I'm a veteran. I was in the military for about 14 years of my life. I taught leadership. I was in a leadership position. I went on tour. I was leading teams. I worked in corporate. I worked with as I was a executive administrator, so I worked specifically with CEOs or VPs, depending on which area I was in, as well as I led projects for nonprofits. So leadership has been in my gene pool, in my blood. It's something that I've been doing for years and years. And when I got pregnant, this is when I really started to look at leadership and the roles of leaders in the family, the role of the father, the mother. And what does this mean? How is this whole other person, this being, how can they thrive? So there were things that there was tons of mistakes I have made, as we all do when we're now starting off,
That's
uh,
right.
and and from those mistakes I learned to now where we are presently.
Am I froze?
No, 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 no. You're good. You're good. I just paused there because I didn't know if you wanted me to continue on or ask a question or yeah.
Yeah. So I would like for you to continue on. However, um, no. You're doing perfect. I want you to continue on with the leadership story because I have a story about faith and sparkle in front of
Yes.
me. So before we move on there, yeah, a little your background and leadership and where it led you to throughout the family.
Yes. 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 And so as I mentioned, because I knew about leadership and I taught leadership and I was in all of these leadership positions, now, while I was pregnant, I started to do all the things that I knew what to do, which was researching, because I have a degree in researching and also a degree in humanities, which is funny because I'm in this like I was in a male dominated masculine role for such a long time in the military to, have a degree in humanities and in research. But with that, I wanted to know what made other children successful. And I looked through ancient times, I looked at different cultures. I was very specific. How did they thrive? Why did they thrive? What was instilled in these children? How did they grow up? How did they think? Why did they think that way? And with that, because I understood how to create space, which is the foundation of what I start if I'm coaching anyone or doing any sort of mentorship, is understanding the space that you need to be in. It's a mental space, a spiritual space, and a physical space, right? What space is it? And so, from my research and in understanding that, um, mixed with my experience in leadership, now I started to lay the foundational work and I started to create the space so that my daughter would thrive while I was pregnant. And I knew absolutely nothing about her. I didn't know anything about if she was a girl or a boy at that time. Um, because it was still, I found her when I was about 4 months pregnant. But I knew that when I created a space that she could thrive in, where she could be who she needed to be, and where I as well can thrive, where I can function and be successful and live in purpose, that will translate. And so in the home, in part of laying that foundation, part of the things was raising the vibration, raising the frequency, because I had to get that up. I had to shift all of those things to include her. Now, I'm a single mother, I'm a single parent. And so a lot of that weight was on me to do that. If you're together, like you're in a relationship and there's a two-parent household, it becomes easier. But either way, once you create that space for the family, you start seeing the progress. And we have a pup. So Faith is my daughter, and Sparkle is our pup. She just passed on December 30th, just before the new year. So a very trying time for us. But in that time, everyone in the home was their vibrations was raising, including my own. There was much more clarity. Faith is born, and all of a sudden, things that should have taken her, when she was 7 or 8 to do, all of a sudden, it's taking 2 years. So at three, 3 years old, that's when after my mom went through cancer, Faith was there. Faith and Sparkle were there to support her and work with her. And Faith really tapped into her purpose. Now, as I said, the work and the foundational work that I did at that time, it was just laying that foundation and creating that space of creativity, creating that space of purpose, creating that space of wholeness, right? And once my mom recovered from cancer, and that's a huge traumatic event for her because they were best friends, they were very close, and of course, it was also a sad time for her. Faith saw herself as a superhero doctor. And then she comes to me in the middle of the night. She just turned 3 years old and she's like, Mom, I'm a superhero doctor. And I'm like, what? I'm a superhero doctor. Huh? You're not listening to me. I'm a superhero doctor. So this is what she says to me, 12 o'clock in the night when I want to sleep. And you're like, you should not be up at this time. Like, this is how
Right.
I'm thinking. But I get up and I'm listening. I'm like, okay, I'm listening. What is it? And she shares this. And then she wants it to be a real book.
Mm.
And, when there's children, oh, I like this. I want to do this. I want to do that. I waited and I said, that's great. We'll do that. We'll write it down. But I saw her persistence every day. Now, I want to be very clear. There was foundational work that was done prior to where she is at 3 years old. As I said, when I was pregnant, I did work. I raised the frequency of the home. I was very clear about what type of parent I wanted to be. How was I going to lead the home? What type of child would she be? Not something that I think that I want, but in allowing her to develop as well. Because remember, my role as a leader in teaching leadership, I had to learn all of those things. So I took all of that and I applied it to the home. She wants to write this book. We did it. I thought, in all honesty, that this was just going to be a memory for us. So I could say to her down the line, like now she's 6, when she's 6, this is where you were at. This is where your brain was at 3 years old. Instead, she even surprised me and said, can it be a real book? Now I knew nothing about publishing, nothing about being an author, nothing about even if this was going to be a real story or a series or even a business, the Faith and Sparkles world that we know today. I didn't think it would win any awards. I didn't think she would have the recognition, any of those stuff. I just thought in this moment, okay, let's just go for it. And I said, yeah, okay, let's see where this goes. I called around different publishing companies, and you know what the response I got? wow, this is such a great idea. This is a series. They thought it was mine. And I said, no. Why? Because Faith is now sharing her story. She wanted to share her message of kindness and compassion. She was so sure this is what she was placed on earth to do. And all I did as a parent was say, all right, let's see where this goes. Let's see where it goes. And this started out in the pandemic. Now, 3 years later, the books have been won awards. She has won awards, been in Success Magazine for as an influencer, and for the impact that she's having. Her books are in hospitals across North American children's hospitals for kids with pediatric brain cancer. She supports kids with autism speaks. We do fundraising and give backs, and share this message of empowerment with so many other countless children and animals. And we get all of these great reviews from them. Now, all of that was her. And then, of course, her pup Sparkle. And they just going together, moving together, journeying together. And this is how I got my second act, because as the parent, now I am supporting her dreams. And I have other parents, I had other entrepreneurs reaching out to me and saying, how are you doing this? How can I recognize um, my child's gifts and skills and talents? How do I do this? And so from my daughter's creativity, based on the work that was done, the preparatory work and the foundation that was laid, now I get the second act in life. Now I get to really live in purpose, because everything I was doing before, it was great and I did well, but I didn't feel I was in purpose. But this I know is what I'm supposed to do and what I was meant to do.
Right.
Yes.
Right. I like, I really like how you can recognize that you laid the groundwork.
Yeah.
A lot of people are, I'm not going to say afraid, but they won't
Mhm.
necessarily give themselves the credit that they deserve. You
Mm.
know, especially like when it comes to our kids, when it comes to our businesses, sometimes it's
Yeah.
we want to look at it as just, you know, a blessing, or um we look at it as just something that was just happenstance to be given
Mhm.
to us. But you know, really, it's us putting in the work, and we need that pat on the back. We need to say, listen, I laid that foundation. I did the work that I knew how to work, and it could be your purpose. It could very well be your purpose, but that purpose may work through different type of avenues. And then, like you say, come back around. Man, I do a lot of interviews like this, and a lot of people say, you know, my second act is where it's at.
Yeah.
It started with my first, and I can see where it kind of came back around. But my second act, it's not even for money anymore. Like it's just
Yeah.
totally for purpose.
Yes.
So yeah, I love how it came back around, and now you are showcasing your leadership skills once again in the way that
A
you want to do.
100%. 100%. It is so in it just it's this invaluable way of being. And I really like what you said about that I said that I did the work. Yes, there I did do the work. And I do also recognize that there is, if you recall earlier, I talked about there's a spiritual foundation and the mental foundation and the physical, like all of these layers mixed together. So I want people to be very clear. There is work on different levels to get done as well. And yes, we are supported as well, right? Whether you believe in God or the universe or whatever you want to call, right? There is that support that is there for us. But I reiterating what you have said, Rashad, about we must also do our part. And when we do our part and we're living in purpose, the money will come, because now we're doing things that are purposeful. We're doing it and it will provide the value. And millionaires don't just become millionaires. Why? Because there are people that refer them. They're doing something that they love. Yes, they do the hard work. Yes, they have the lead gen. Yes, they have the strategies and all of these things. But at the same time, it's always referrals, word of mouth. This worked for me. I believe in this. Like all of those testimonials, and people are just magnetized and attracted to it, and then they could relate because, hey, my friend went through this process. Oh, I heard about this and I want to try it. And you know how it is, Rashad, right? Like that's just how it flows.
Yep, that's how it goes. That's word of mouth. At the end of the day, someone is referring your work, your
Mhm.
strategy. You have to showcase what it is that you can do for others. And all of that is just like being, I would compare it to being on a team. You know, if you're sitting on the bench, you're not really putting in any work,
Yep.
but once you start scoring points, you're a part of that team. And that just happens to be, I'm making that analogy as far as our purpose. As long as you're sitting on the bench, sideline, not doing any work, you're not really worthy. But if you come in practicing hard and are able to be a part of the team, then now that's when the money starts flowing in because, as they say in the basketball terminology, you're now getting buckets.
That's right. There you go. I love that.
Yeah. So this actually, as you're telling me the story, it reminds me of the movie King Richard about the Serena and her sister and the way that he had a plan for them. That's the first time I've ever seen that, other than maybe Joe Jackson and Michael Jackson. But um, their father had a plan for them. And it amazes me how that exact plan that he had in his head and kind of mapped out a plan for his daughters, and they became the best in the world at what he visualized and worked on. And those steps and that kind of your story as you were speaking reminded me of that because it was purposeful
Mhm.
and it was intentional. And if we would all be intentional about our purposes,
Yeah.
about our children,
Mhm.
and really have a plan and really have it mapped out and go about every day knowing there's a certain outcome that could come out of this. At the least, I want you to be a leader. At the least, I want you to be a strong person. So I commend you on that. And I haven't I've never seen it work for parenting or pre-parenting. I know like mothers say listen to some Bach or listen to Sade or some smooth music or something like that. Read to your kid. I've heard
Yeah.
that, but raising the frequency.
You
That's
have to.
how
You
did you
have
do that? How's that done?
Well, I'm glad you're so engaged in this conversation and that you want to learn about this.
I mean, the listeners want to learn. And I need a better world for our children to live in. So yeah, I want to know.
No, of course. No, no, this gets me excited because I love talking about this stuff and sharing about these things. So how do we raise the frequency in our home, right? Uh, and I love that analogy that you mentioned about Joe Jackson and Serena and Venus's dad. Like, so they were very intentional and specific, and people must recognize they didn't just up and say, "Oh, I'm just going to do this one day." When they actually hear this story from these fathers, they sat down, they were in time of reflection, they were in time of like they were in like a thinking state. It was conscious but at the same time also an unconscious state. And then the vision comes to them, right, sometimes in pieces, and then it unfolds, and so it becomes very clear for them to write down that format. So I wanted to address that first. When you're not sure what your child might be, maybe you have a baby, perhaps your child is preteen, or even if you're newly pregnant, in order to raise the frequency, the vibration of your home and of your children, you must start speaking words of life over them. You must bless them. It is a must. When we look at very specific cultures, they bless their children. They are very clear and intentional about the names that they give their children. When other people speak in a way, uh, in sort of like a negative connotation about their children. They stand up and say, my child is not this, my child is this. If they say, oh, your child is rude, they'll be like, no, my child is carefree, right? They're very specific and intentional in their wording. They're very specific in how they bless their children every day. You are above, not beneath. You are brilliant. You are kind. You are compassionate. You are a leader of many. Your name means river of life. Like, and I'm just giving these little examples. So this is how we start doing our words have vibration, they have a soul. And when we start getting into these more, and this is a scientific study that was done years and years ago, and it shows that when you put specific words next to water, the water forms either beautifully or it gets distorted. So that is with water. So imagine when you speak empowering, supportive, loving, strengthening words to your children, how much more the cells in their body is going to bloom. Now they have insight. Now they have this, like, they walk taller, they're more confident. So that is part one. The other part is we can be with our children 24 hours a day. And we can't just be speaking words of life 24 hours a day. We have to sleep and do all of these things. So, another way to raise the vibration in your home, your workspace, in the car, is to you have to understand and know, what space do I want? So when you walk into your home, what type of home do I want? Do I want a calm home, a peaceful home, a thriving home, a creative home, whatever it is? And put on music in the background, in the center of the house, in the living room, wherever it is, just so that helps to shift the energy in your home. Many cultures years ago, even up to the present, sometimes when they're praying, they light incense and all of those things. Yes, some people sage, they do all of that, but just simple fact of putting on specific music or affirmation words, or blessings, that shifts your environment, not only for yourself, now for your children. Now, your children might say, why do we have this on? They might whine or complain if they're not used to it and they're older. But what you would see over the course of a week, consistently having this on for like about 2 hours a day, consistently, they start to shift. So, whatever music goes on, that is how they're going to start emulating. Similarly to when people listen to music that are negative, or speaking of violence or sexuality, they dress a certain way or they move a certain way, right? But when you're putting on music or words of encouragement, that shifts the environment. And now they are aligning with who they really are. They're coming in harmony. So remember, words of life speak. They leave you, bless them. I love you. I bless you today because you are kind, or you are amazing, or you're so great at this at math. I don't know, whatever it is. Even if your child has improved in something, maybe they're not the best at reading, but you've seen them make those efforts. Bless them, encourage them, because that shifts who they are. They walk taller, they're more confident, and they will give you a million more percent. Not really you, they'll give themselves a million more percent, but in their minds, you're like, wow, my mom is so proud, my dad is so proud. I want to continue to be proud, and they would want to work with you, they want to align with you. Why? Because you are their ally. Similarly to any business you go to, it doesn't matter if they're a trillionaire, or if you're now starting off, or you work in an office or wherever, you need allies that are going to support you, to empower you, that's going to work with you as a team. And you take that same mindset, mentality, and you ally with your children, be in harmony with them, encourage them, and they will always look to support you as well. So it's that two-way street. And I'm going to stop there because I think I talked too much. I'm sorry.
No, don't be sorry. Don't be sorry. The name of my show is Millionaire by Morning. Actionable steps is what we need to take, have to take. So every time I can speak to life coach, leadership coach, um, um, meditation coach. Like I want to know, right?
Yeah.
I want to know action steps. What can be done to just, like I say, make the world a better place at the end of the
Yeah.
day. Do our part to do, to do that. So I want to thank you very much for that insight. Um, and I'm pretty sure someone listening is going to put this in their everyday routine. I do see a lot of people talking about it online and hearing about it more so, making that change, making that effort to make that change. Um, so I think, yeah, as a community, as a society, that we are on our way. We're speaking life into each other. So that's a wonderful thing.
Hmm.
And sorry about your puppy. I
Oh,
didn't get
thank
that
you.
in there.
Yeah, thank you.
Um, so I do like to leave these kind of short and sweet. So somebody want to find you, they go themselves and do the research to find more out about you. Um, One thing I would like to know, as far as a leadership coach, do you have any like John Maxwell training or anything like
Yes.
that?
Okay, okay. Yes, yes, yes. So when I was doing in the military, they have their own leadership training and programs, and I just do my own work on the side. I love John C. Maxwell's training guide. Actually, the first book I got from someone that was on my team was the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. And my upcoming webinar in January the 19th, on the 19th, we're actually going to be looking at the laws of leadership, just based off his book. I'm not going through his book, but just like based off of it, as well as we're going to look at the 8 types of leaders and how the laws apply to them and how you can start identifying what type of leader you are, so then you can make the adjustments not only to become better, but also to improve in yourself. So you have the most effective team home and you're living aligned in balance and at peace, because that is key.
Alignment.
Yeah.
Alignment is key. I've had so many CEOs and other guests on this um, podcast, and that is one of the things that they always preach is alignment is key. And that goes for life, personal, and business. That's right.
Yes.
Where can people find you? Social
You can
media.
find, yeah. Oh, on social media, Faith and Sparkles World or Delisa Abraham on LinkedIn. Delisa and Faith Abraham on LinkedIn, but Faith and Sparkles World is your best bet. We have everything on there. And I'm going to be sharing my Calendly link because I have a free 20-minute session. I want to get to know you. I want to get to know where you need support and be able to guide you through that process. So you might think, well, in 20 minutes, what can I get from this? In 20 minutes, I'm going to ensure that you have a clear strategy for the next 3 months. And the reason why I can guarantee I can do that is because I have conversations with people all the time and I need to like filter out right away. Can we work together or not? Yeah,
Right.
right. And, but I just don't want to filter out, can we work together or not? I also want to make sure that I'm providing them with value so that you are thriving and that you can lay the foundation to start and to grow. And so in that 20-minute session, not only are you getting clarity, we're going to go through a mini strategy plan, and I'm always open for you to connect with me online, ask me questions. And the reason why I do that is because connection is key. Connection is key. My purpose is to enrich you, to inspire you, to empower you, to encourage you. And I understand that there are many out there that are, you know, perhaps taking your money and they're helping you for 60 days, 90 days, 6 months, whatever it is. But this process of leadership, this process of what I'm going through, this is a lifestyle. And a lifestyle is a process and it takes time. So even if you don't work today, I have a membership space that you could come into. You could ask me questions. You can follow along. There's always value that you can utilize and start implementing.
Okay.